you've ever spent some time railfanning on BNSF tracks, then you've probably noticed there's an abundance of different paint schemes used by the railroad. There's both BNSF and Santa Fe war bonnets, Executive Max, blue bonnets, Cascade Green, and H1 through 4. With all these different paint schemes floating around, there's bound to be some oddballs here and there. And in today's video, we're going to cover some of the lesser known paint schemes used by BNSF. Some were created on purpose, and some were made out of necessity. Now, I realize there's tons of engines that could classify as having a one-of-a-kind paint scheme, like this Dash 9 with a Conrail door, or this Gevo with a green snowplow. But in today's video, we're just going to cover BNSF's most notable one-off locomotives. The intentional oddballs are experimental paint schemes used by BNSF, like the Vomit Bonnet. This is the first completely original paint job BNSF ever came up with, and I'm sure you can see why it didn't stick. I mean, it ain't terrible, but it ain't great. Executive colors in a war bonnet style just don't look as good as the classic red and silver. BNSF let the Barf bonnet roam the rails for 17 years, but in 2013, it was repainted into Heritage 3. Today, 9647 can still be found pulling trains, but she's not as impressive of a sight as she used to be. The next experimental paint job will probably look a little more familiar. This engine is nicknamed the Great Pumpkin, and it wears a paint scheme that would eventually become Heritage 1. Unlike the Vomit Bonnet, this engine was never repainted. However, you can't expect to see this locomotive out on the main line, because it's currently in storage in Minneapolis. Hopefully BNSF will take this engine out of storage sometime, but since it's an aging SD60M, it probably won't be put on mainline service. Either way, it's nice to know this oddball is still out there. Next up is probably the most recognizable of BNSF's one-off paint schemes. It's 7695, the Golden Swoosh. When BNSF changed their logo in 2005, they started to paint it on their locomotives, and 7695 was the first engine to wear the new swoosh. The only problem was that the yellow lettering on an orange background made it hard to read from a distance, and the swoosh was soon changed to black. The Golden Swoosh can still be found on the main line, and it shouldn't be going anywhere anytime soon. Personally, I've been trying to catch the Golden Swoosh for over a year, but so far, no luck. Now we're getting into the really odd stuff. All of these oddball locomotives were made either out of laziness or they got in a wreck and needed a quick patch. First up are the BNSF Smurfs. These locomotives were leaser units from GMTX, but BNSF ended up buying them. Instead of bringing them to the shop for a total repaint, BNSF decided to slap a couple logos on them and call it good. Only 10 of these Smurf locomotives were made. Over the years, most have been repainted. I wouldn't be surprised if a few Smurfs are still out there, but I can't say for certain how many are left. Next up is BNSF 965. During the 2010s, this engine was involved in a wreck that damaged its nose. After it was repaired, the boys in the paint shop decided to get a little creative, which led to this one-of-a-kind paint job. A similar story can be told for BNSF 1065 and 1113. Both of these engines were involved in wrecks that left their noses damaged, and after repairs, both locomotives were given a one-of-a-kind paint job. 965, 1065, and 1113 can all still be found pulling freight trains on America's rails, so keep your eyes peeled for these interesting locomotives. There's also BNSF 1050, a typical H1-9, but the lettering on the long hood is gold instead of black. Sometime between late 2005 and early 2006, this locomotive had some patchwork done on it. Here's a photo of 1050 when she was pretty much fresh out of the paint shop. You can see the difference in color between the cab and long hood, with the new paint being a richer orange. 1050 can also still be found on the main line. In fact, just a few months ago I caught it pulling a northbound intermodal. And now, for the two most recent additions to BNSF's long line of one-off paint jobs, the Franken engines. Now, we've all seen locomotives with mix-match doors or swapped horns, but these two engines take it to a whole nother level. BNSF 4331 and 4729 have had most of their entire long hoods swapped. I'm not sure what caused these engines to have such extensive repairs. My guess is they got in a wreck, but I'm not certain. Just like all the Oddball H1-9s, 4331 and 4729 can both be found pulling trains all across North America. And who knows, maybe if you're lucky, you could catch one of these engines leading the train. Thanks for watching. If y'all enjoyed this video, consider checking out some other ones of mine. Till next time.